What would you do if the people meant to protect you were the very ones who buried your worth? If the legacy you were born into was built on power, wealth, and cold calculation, and you were never meant to inherit a single piece of it? What if the final words of someone long gone held the key to everything they tried to take from you? The lies, the betrayal, the humiliation, all wrapped neatly in a legal envelope, sealed with a smirk. But what if there was something they didn't know? Something hidden, buried, waiting to be discovered by the one they cast aside? Would you walk away, or would you dig? Stay with me. This story doesn't start with triumph. It starts with a reckoning. The mahogany-paneled dining room of the Quinn estate reeked of old money and fresh deception. Sunlight filtered through the towering windows, scattering across a table set for 12, but occupied by only 4. The silence was deafening, like the eye of a storm before the crash. Ivy Quinn sat with her hands folded neatly in her lap, her posture straight, but her stomach twisted into knots. The scent of jasmine clung to her scarf, a fragile comfort against the thick cloud of judgment hanging in the air. Across from her, Vivian Quinn sipped from a crystal glass like royalty in mourning, elegant, cold, and composed to the point of cruelty. Their parents had died just 6 days earlier. A private jet. A mechanical failure. Flames that touched sky and earth alike. No goodbyes. Now, all that remained was legacy and who got what. The family attorney, Mr. Lawrence Reed, cleared his throat. He was thin, methodical, and dressed in mourning black. Thank you all for being here. Per the last will and testament of Theodore and Eleanor Quinn, I will now read the final allocations. Vivian didn't flinch. Of course she didn't. She'd probably read it already. Or worse, helped write it. To our beloved daughter, Vivian Elise Quinn, Lawrence began, we bequeath full control and ownership of Quinn International Holdings, including all associated assets, equity stakes, and liquid accounts. You will also inherit the primary estate at 5th Avenue and all accompanying properties. Ivy's heart clenched. She expected this. And yet, it still felt like a punch to the ribs. Vivian set her glass down with a soft clink, then turned to Ivy with a look that could slit throats. Don't look so surprised, sis. We both know you never wanted any of this. I never wanted their power, Ivy replied, her voice calm but tight. That's not the same thing as being worthless. Tell yourself whatever helps you sleep. Lawrence glanced uneasily between them before continuing. To our daughter, Ivy Camille Quinn, we leave the property known as Quinn Ranch, located in Cochise County, Arizona. The land includes approximately 340 acres, a residence structure in disrepair, and surrounding assets previously held by Lionel Quinn. Silence. A slow, creeping silence that made the room feel colder than it should have. Vivian let out a sharp laugh. Not loud, but sharp, like a dagger pressed against a bruise. A ranch. In Arizona. God, that's almost poetic. It's not a punishment, Ivy said, her throat dry. It's something different. Vivian leaned in, lips curling into a smirk. No, Ivy. It's exactly a punishment. You spent your life chasing sunshine and windmills while the rest of us built empires. That old man's desert shack is what you get for pretending your sustainable dreams mattered. Aunt Beatrice chuckled behind her manicured hand. Uncle Henry whispered something to his wife and shook his head. Even the staff standing along the wall tried, unsuccessfully, to hide their expressions. Ivy felt the burn crawl up her spine. Shame. Rage. Something ancient and bitter and unspoken. But she didn't cry. She stood. Slowly. Gracefully. Thank you, Mr. Reed. I'll take it. Vivian raised a brow. Take what? The dust bowl. The ghost of Grandpa Lionel. Ivy stepped away from the table, her voice steady. I'll take the chance they missed. She didn't look back as she walked out of the room. But if she had, she might have seen the flicker of something unfamiliar in Vivian's eyes. Not fear. Not yet. But soon. The desert didn't welcome visitors. It tolerated them, briefly and with warning. Ivy's old hybrid SUV hummed low as it climbed the last hill before the valley opened wide. Sand swept across the cracked two-lane road like whispers of forgotten things. Mesquite trees stood twisted and brittle under the weight of years. Her GPS lost signal 2 hours ago. But she didn't care. She wasn't following coordinates. She was following something deeper, something instinctive. Something that hummed in her bones. The sun hung low behind her, painting the sky in strokes of burnt orange and violet when the rusted sign finally appeared. Quinn Ranch, estimated 1947. Half buried in sand. Shot through with bullet holes. Hanging on by a single, rusted chain. Charming, she muttered under her breath, pulling off the road and crunching over gravel. The ranch house stood at the center like a memory refusing to die, 2 stories of cracked stucco, a caved-in roof on one side, and windows like hollow eyes. Ivy stepped out of the car, boots hitting earth, and took her first breath of the place. It smelled like dry wood, ghost rain, and something old. The front door groaned when she pushed it open. Dust billowed into the light, like spirits startled from slumber. She walked the halls slowly. Faded wallpaper peeled like skin. A family photo hung crooked on the wall, her grandfather, young and proud, standing beside a woman Ivy had never known. Maybe his sister. Maybe more ghosts. In the barn, she found the remnants of work, old tools, rusted tractors, a hayloft filled with silence. The sun filtered in through the slats in golden lines, striping the dirt. And then, like a ripple in her mind, a voice from the past. Some things aren't meant to be found by everyone, Ivy girl. Just the right ones. When the time comes. Her grandfather's words. A story he used to tell her when she was little. About secrets the earth keeps for the stubborn. She turned slowly, eyes narrowing on a wall at the back of the barn. The boards there didn't match. Newer. Slightly warped. And one of them was loose. Ivy knelt down and pried the panel aside. Behind it, hidden beneath layers of insulation and mouse nests, was an old iron lock embedded in what looked like a cellar door. Her heart thumped once, hard. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the small brass key from the envelope in the will. Her fingers shook slightly as she inserted it. It clicked. The door creaked open on a narrow spiral staircase that led into blackness. She paused at the top. Not from fear, but reverence. Then she stepped into the dark. The air grew cooler, damper, as she descended. When she reached the bottom, motion sensor lights flickered on overhead, revealing a massive underground chamber carved into stone. Shelves. Desks. Filing cabinets. Glass containers with mineral samples. Geological charts papered the walls. It was a laboratory. No, a sanctuary. Ivy stepped toward one of the workbenches and picked up a leather-bound notebook. On the front, embossed in fading gold, the Lionel Quinn Lithium Initiative Classified Research. She opened it slowly. Inside were pages and pages of detailed diagrams, extraction models, environmental impact reports, and beneath it all, maps of mineral veins traced in red ink. Lithium. Vast deposits. Buried right beneath this land. Unclaimed. Untouched. Forgotten. Her throat tightened. Not with disbelief, but with something else. Recognition. You knew, she whispered aloud, voice cracking. You knew they'd never see it. But you knew I would. She ran her hand across the desk, over the old instruments, the dust-covered vials, the careful scrawl of a man who had once been dismissed by his own bloodline. And in that moment, Ivy Quinn stopped being the forgotten daughter. She became something else. Ivy sat alone in the dim light of the lab, pages of her grandfather's research spread out before her like a sacred manuscript. Every chart, every equation, every line of handwritten analysis spoke of years, decades, of work that no one ever took seriously. But she did. And now, she had to protect it. Step 1. Silence. Jonathan Reed. Stanford Law. Ex-DOJ. Specializes in patents and IP wars. Known for suing billion-dollar companies into the ground and walking away with a smile. It was exactly the type of man Ivy needed. They met in a modest cafe in Sedona, far from Wall Street ears and Quinn family spies. Reed was in his late 30s, clean-cut, but with a rugged sharpness, like someone who'd seen the inside of too many courtrooms and enjoyed it. You sure this isn't just a family land dispute? He asked after scanning the top of a few documents. Ivy slid a folder across the table. Open it. He did. Then blinked. Then leaned back slowly, eyebrows raised. That's a hell of a lot of lithium. And it stays mine. Every patent, every model, every process. I want it protected under a shell company, completely disconnected from my name, from the Quinn name. If my family ever comes sniffing around, I want them to hit a wall so hard they bleed. Jonathan chuckled softly, tapping the folder. You sound like someone who's done her homework. I'm done being the quiet one in the room. Within 72 hours, Reed had established a Nevada-registered entity under the name Solcor Research, Incorporated. Patents were filed. Royalties locked. Legal shields raised. The Quinn family could burn down every lawyer on the East Coast and still never touch it. Step 2. Proof. She flew to San Diego the next morning. The Pacific shimmered outside the airplane window, but Ivy's focus was locked on her tablet, rereading her grandfather's mineral maps for the 100th time. She was meeting the best. Dr. Isabel Bella Hahn was a rising legend in geology, published in every major journal, keynote speaker at UN climate summits, and fiercely committed to ethical mining. They met at UCSD's Earth Science Building, where Bella reviewed the data in silence, flipping page after page of Lionel's notes. After 10 minutes, she looked up, stunned. Where did you get this? Buried under my family's ranch in Arizona, Ivy replied. No one else knows it's there. Bella stood, motioning her into a lab. She pulled up digital topography software and began cross-referencing Ivy's maps with recent USGS surveys. Her voice dropped. Ivy, if your grandfather's estimations are accurate, and these samples hold, you're sitting on one of the largest known lithium veins in the continental United States. Ivy exhaled slowly. Then I want to do this right. No strip mining. No ecological fallout. We do this clean, we do this sustainable, or not at all. Bella smiled, sharp and impressed. Then we'll do it together. Step 3, fuel. They needed capital. Serious capital. Ivy had a name in mind, Owen Carter, venture capitalist, former environmental activist turned clean tech kingmaker. His firm had backed several EV battery startups, and was rumored to be looking for the next big leap in lithium extraction. She flew to Palo Alto. No suits. No pitch decks. Just a thumb drive and a truth no one else knew. Owen met her on the rooftop of his company's minimalist glass building. He was dressed in jeans and a Patagonia vest, barefoot, drinking kombucha. The air smelled of eucalyptus and money. "I've got 15 minutes, he said. She plugged in the drive. 1 minute in, he stopped the video. "Wait. These diagrams. They are real. Verified by Dr. Bella Han. And protected by the best IP lawyer in the business." He stared at her, then stepped back. "What are you asking for?" $100 million. "That's bold." "Not really," Ivy said, calm. "You're not investing in a guess. You're investing in the future of lithium. Quietly. Exclusively. And sustainably. All built on technology no one else has, and no one else can touch." A long pause. Then Owen grinned. "Welcome to the revolution, Ivy." Within a week, the papers were signed. Teralith Solutions was born. Not as a legacy. As a reckoning. No one saw it coming. 1 month after launch, Teralith Solutions signed a confidential supply agreement with a mid-tier EV battery startup. 2 months later, they inked a joint research deal with Tesla's sustainability division. By the 4th month, Apple and Panasonic were knocking at the door. The world was starving for lithium. Ivy held the feast. The startup, born from a dusty ranch and a dead man's forgotten dream, skyrocketed in value. $100 million became $400 million. Then $800. Then $1.2 billion. CNBC called it the dark horse of clean energy. Bloomberg ran the headline. From dust to dominance, the Teralith takeover. Ivy declined every interview. Let the product speak. Let the silence haunt them. Back in Manhattan, whispers turned to shouts. One morning, Ivy's phone rang. Unknown number. But she knew the voice the second it spoke. "Ivy. It's me. Vivian." Her voice had changed. Not sharp like before. Thinner. Uneasy. "I need to ask you something." Ivy leaned against the windowsill of her office at the Arizona lab, looking out over the desert that had once felt like exile, and now felt like home. "Ask." Teralith Solutions. Is it? Is it yours?" A long pause. Then Ivy smiled, her voice calm and cool. "You've never cared about a worthless ranch before. What changed?" Silence on the other end. The kind that cracked egos. Vivian didn't respond. She didn't have to. 2 weeks later, a lawsuit was filed in New York Supreme Court. Beatrice M. Quinn, as executor of the Quinn Family Trust, claimed that all technological innovations, research, and mineral rights developed by Lionel Quinn are the intellectual property of Quinn Holdings, and therefore subject to familial estate rights. The press had a field day. But they had no idea what they were walking into. Jonathan Reed filed a 227-page counterclaim that included patent filings, timelines, IP licensing contracts, and the Nevada LLC firewall. In court, Reed didn't just block their attack, he buried it. The Quinn family had no knowledge of these discoveries. No investment in their development. No legal entitlement to what they never claimed, never valued, and never protected. The judge didn't even need a full session to rule. Case dismissed. The Quinn family left the courthouse stunned, hollowed, and publicly humiliated. Vivian sat stone-faced in the back seat of her black town car, staring out the window. Beatrice lit a cigarette with trembling fingers and muttered, "She outplayed us all." And Ivy? She watched the ruling come in from her ranch office. Then turned back to her whiteboard, filled with ideas for the next expansion phase of Teralith. They only care when they smell power, she murmured to herself. But power doesn't come from bloodlines. It comes from fire. And Ivy Quinn had become wildfire. Manhattan was bleeding. The real estate crash hit harder than anyone expected. Towering penthouses once worth 40 million were being listed for 20. Offers came in at 10. Some at less. Wealth evaporated overnight like rain on hot pavement. And Vivian Quinn, darling of finance, heiress to Quinn Holdings, was drowning. Her empire, built on borrowed prestige and aggressive leverage, couldn't weather the storm. Investors backed out. Clients panicked. Margin calls came in waves. She held on to her prized possession, the penthouse on Fifth Avenue, for as long as she could. Crystal chandeliers, custom marble, a walk-in wine vault. All of it meant nothing when the bank came knocking. Vivian was forced to sell. It made headlines. Wall Street Queen liquidates holdings amid crash. Quinn heiress penthouse sold to private buyer in fire sale. What no one knew, yet, was who bought it. A week later, Vivian received an envelope. No return address. Just a silver embossed card inside, printed on heavy black stock. It read, "Your keys are ready. Teralith Private Acquisitions." Her stomach dropped. She called the number on the card. "This is Ivy Quinn." Silence. Then, "Ivy. Teralith bought my apartment. Technically, a holding company under our acquisitions arm did. But yes. It's mine now." "Why? Why would you?" "Because it was cheap," Ivy replied flatly. "And poetic." Vivian's voice broke. "Please? I'm not asking for much. Just let me buy it back. I'll pay more. Just give me a chance." Ivy paused. The silence stretched long enough to twist. Then she answered, her voice like velvet over steel. "You told me once to ask for help when I was broke. Ivy. Now you can contact Teralith's investment division. Maybe they'll consider leasing it back to you. If your credit's clean." Vivian let out a choked gasp. "You're really doing this to me?" "No," Ivy said softly. "You did this to you. I just bought the leftovers." She ended the call. Vivian dropped the phone. The room spun. Her knees buckled. The room spun. Her knees buckled. For the first time in her life, the woman who once laughed at a desert ranch had nothing. And Ivy. She stood in front of the penthouse's tall windows that night, sipping tea, barefoot on floors that used to belong to someone else. She didn't need the space. Didn't even like the decor. But she liked the view. "Funny," she whispered, "how things come full circle." Peace didn't come with headlines. It came in quiet moments. Mornings on the ranch, when the sun broke over the hills and the wind carried nothing but stillness. Evenings in the lab, when Ivy ran her fingers over blueprints and thought of the man who first taught her to dream in diagrams, not dollars. She didn't check the stock price of Teralith every day anymore. She didn't need the praise of journalists, or the grudging respect of boardrooms she used to be shut out of. Her victory was not a moment, it was a life. And she was living it. Teralith had expanded to 4 continents. Their technology had cut extraction emissions by 67%. Ivy funneled profits into grants for young scientists, solar farms in underserved communities, and environmental protection laws she lobbied for personally. People called her visionary. But Ivy didn't believe in visions. She believed in work. And the work never stopped. The invitation came on thick stationery, embossed in gold. Hamilton Preparatory Academy invites Ivy C. Quinn to deliver the commencement address for the class of 2025. She nearly threw it out. Then she didn't. The auditorium looked the same: oak paneling, dusty banners, a sea of identical navy blue gowns. Ivy stood backstage, calm in a sleek black suit, her presence magnetic without even trying. She stepped onto the stage to scattered whispers from the faculty. A few students clapped without even knowing who she was. Then she spoke. "When I sat where you sit now, I was invisible." The room quieted. Not because I had nothing to offer, but because I offered something different. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the crowd. I didn't fit their boxes. I didn't play their game. And I spent years thinking that meant I had to change who I was. A beat. It didn't. She told them of failure. Of dust and silence. Of choosing purpose over applause. And then, she ended. My family thought they abandoned me with a worthless piece of land. But that land, that dust, that silence, it became the ground on which I built an empire. Applause erupted. Loud. Raw. Real. No more whispers. That night, Ivy stood under the Arizona stars, barefoot on the porch of the house she'd rebuilt with her own hands. Wind tugged gently at her hair. Somewhere beneath her, the earth still hummed with power. Not just lithium. Legacy. Not the kind you inherit. The kind you create. If you've made it here, then maybe part of Ivy's journey found its way into yours. Maybe you've felt invisible. Maybe you've been told you were too much, or not enough. Maybe you've stood at the edge of something broken, with nothing but your name and your fire. Let them laugh. Let them look away. And then, build anyway. Because success doesn't come gift-wrapped with a last name or a title. It doesn't arrive when someone lets you win. It rises when you refuse to disappear. So to anyone who's ever been underestimated, this story was for you. If you connected with Ivy Quinn's journey, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs a reminder. Success isn't something they give you. It's something you take.